Testing kombucha. So I've been embarking on a journey of brewing my own kombucha at home, and in the meantime have found a couple measurements that I can take of the kombucha to make sure that it's fermented properly and to check how much sugar is in my kombucha. So I was curious how those measurements reflect in commercial kombuchas. So I went out to Whole Foods and bought a whole bunch of different kombuchas, and I'm going to test all of them. So I want to see if the sugar content that's portrayed on the labels of the kombucha actually reflect onto what I can measure. I went out to Whole Foods and spent like $50 on a bunch of different bottles, from the big national brands that you might be familiar with to a couple of local brands here in South Florida. I wanted to kind of try all different kinds. First, I'll taste all of them to see how I like the taste and see if I can kind of tell what the sweetness is just by tasting it. And then I'll measure them each with the refractometer. First, I'm doing a few from GT's Kombucha, which is definitely the most popular brand. I'm trying their original flavor, the gingerberry, which is probably my favorite. I also wanted to try the classic kombucha because a lot of stuff has to happen in commercial kombucha to keep the alcohol content below 0.5%. This black label classic GT's kombucha, they keep things a little bit more natural. And so that might bring the alcohol content over, so you get ID'd when you want to buy it. But this is probably closest to the kombucha that I would be brewing at home. And then I'm trying the hard kombucha, which they do kind of ferment a little bit longer and do other techniques to increase the alcohol content to around 3%. Another popular brand here is Health-Ade out of LA. A couple other California brands here, got Kavita and Suja. Brew Doctor is one of my favorite brands as well. They are out of Portland. Hum Kombucha here too, I believe is out of Portland. This one actually advertises itself as less sugar. They claim to be about 30% less sugar than the typical commercial kombucha, so I'm curious to see what that one is like. Rowdy Mermaid is a brand out of Boulder, Colorado. They also claim to be really natural, low sugar content, so I'm curious to check that one out. Buchi here is from North Carolina. And then we've got a couple of Florida brands, 221 BC and Mother Kombucha. The equipment that I have here is a refractometer. And so what this does is it does something with light and the liquid. I'm not exactly sure what it does, but it's a way for you to kind of measure the sugar content of any sort of liquid. It works best with juice. I've read online that when there's alcohol or acids from kombucha, it may throw off the measurements, but I'm trying to get just like a rough measurement. So this should work good enough. So the refractometer, it's like 15, 20 bucks on Amazon. Also comes with a little dropper here. So basically what you do is take a couple drops of liquid, drop it on this little tray here, and then close this, and then you look inside and it'll tell you what the measurement is. And the refractometer measures in a unit called Brix, B-R-I-X. The number that you read from Brix represents the percentage of sugar in the solution. But basically the kind of back of the napkin calculation that I've read online and that I'm using, I don't really know the science behind this, but this is what you're supposed to measure it with. If you take that Brix number, multiply it by 10, that represents the grams per liter of sugar. And a typical kind of kombucha bottle, at least the GT's, is 16 ounces in the US measurement, which is 473 milliliters. So that's roughly half of a liter. So when I read the Brix number, let's say I get 5 Brix, that is 50 grams per liter. I would approximately expect half of that would be the amount of sugar that I would get in a 16-ounce bottle. So 5 Brix, 50 grams per liter, divided by 2, 25 grams in whatever equivalent sized, like regular kind of consumer kombucha bottle. Okay, so just starting with one bottle, we'll start with our good old original GT's kombucha. I got a little measuring cup here. Gonna pour some in and taste it first. So this is just original unflavored kombucha. I tend to like the taste of the really strong vinegar kombucha, which is why I want to make sure that when I'm making kombucha, I have as little amount of sugar as possible. But this is kind of a nice, clean taste that I like from GT's. So you get a little dropper here, and all you need is a couple drops. So you don't really have to do much. So I probably took up a little more than I needed. So you'll do that. And then open up the refractometer here, and you just need like 2 or 3 drops. Here we go. And then we'll close this, and then you kind of want to make sure that the liquid gets like dispersed properly. It's kind of hard to see it on the refractometer there. You don't really want any air bubbles like on the port. And then you kind of hold it up to some light and take a look. Okay, so that looks like around 4.5. So if I do the math on that, 4.5 times 10, 45 grams per liter, divide that by 2, that ends up becoming like 22.5 grams for the 16-ounce bottle. So now the bottle says 12 grams of sugar on it. So I'm not sure where that discrepancy comes from. Maybe partially because, again, the reading is off because of the acids and the alcohol content, but I'm not sure if the reading would be that far off. So could be that there's more sugar in this than the label says. But it's so tasty. Okay, next up, probably one of my favorite GT's flavors, gingerberry. This one tastes much sweeter than the original flavor, obviously, because there is flavoring. So in here we've got, let's see, some ginger juice and blueberry juice to get that flavor. Still says 12 grams of sugar though, so curious to see how that extra sweetness that I taste translates into the Brix measurement. Okay, so that one looks also like right around 4.5. So at least it's consistent between the bottles. Both of them say that there's 12 grams of sugar in each, but according to my rough calculations, it seems to be closer to 20 grams of sugar. Next up, we've got GT's Classic Trilogy. So this is probably one of the more authentically brewed kombuchas because there's not really extra stuff kind of added to it or really added to the process or removed from the process or anything like that to get below this kind of 0.5% alcohol level. Typically, like a kombucha that you're gonna brew at home is probably gonna have somewhere around 1 to probably less than 1.5% alcohol, somewhere between like 0.5 to 1.5. This one we're looking at 16.2 ounces, and this one says 16 grams of sugar. Okay, so this one actually tastes a lot closer to that original flavor, except I can kind of taste some hints of the different like kind of fruit juices that they add. There's raspberry, lemon, ginger, and okay, that's it. Yeah, as far as flavoring, raspberry, lemon, and ginger. So I can taste a bit of that, but I really do taste like the still the strong kombucha flavor. This one is right around 5, pretty much 5 on the dot. So that's a little bit higher than the other ones, and that's going to be right around 25 grams of sugar per bottle. This is the last GT's flavor, and I actually didn't know that GT's made hard kombucha, but I found this at Whole Foods. They do it's right around 3%. So I looked it up, and I think what they do is they kind of like ferment it a little bit longer or do some extra stuff to kick up the kind of alcohol production. Got a 16.2 ounce bottle, and the label says there are 16 grams of sugar in it. I don't particularly like the taste of this one, actually. I already tried it. It's got like a very, I don't even know how to explain it. It's got a kind of a strange flavor. Oh, it's really dark red. I didn't even realize that. It's got like some kind of like musky or oaky or kind of very interesting flavor that I wouldn't really expect in a kombucha. I would expect it in something like a scotch or another type of whiskey, but not in kombucha. So it really threw me off when I first tasted this one. Okay, this one looking like the highest one so far. It looks like right around 5.5. So do the math on that, times 10. That's, I don't even know. Get a calculator. It's a lot of sugar. It's still, like all of these, even if they're a little bit higher than what's rated on the bottle, all of these are still like much less sugar than you would get in like a can of soda. I think a can of Coke, like regular Coke, has something like 60 grams of sugar. So that's a lot. Or even a can, or even like 12 ounces or 16 ounces of orange juice is gonna have a lot more sugar than kombucha. Oh, that one just tastes weird. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So unrelated to sugar content, I'm actually also using a pH meter here to test the pH, which is like the acidity of the kombucha. It's a good signal when you're homebrewing kombucha that your pH gets to kind of a low level, like around 3.0 or less than that. I like to go less than that because I like the really strong acidic kombucha. But I'm just curious to see what the commercial kombuchas sit at. Right now, all of these GTs have been below 3.0, like 2.8, 2.7, that kind of thing. Next up is this KeVita Master Brew Kombucha. I like KeVita a lot for one of their drinks. That's this sparkling probiotic. It's based on like water kefir drink. That's not actually kombucha. These bottles look really, really similar to those. So you want to make sure you actually read the label and see if you're actually getting kombucha or if you're getting that like probiotic kefir drink. This one is saying it's got 15.2 ounces of kombucha and the sugar is coming in at 16 grams. So let's see what the tests will show. This one is super clear. I don't really like expect to see kombucha that clear. That's wild. This one tastes really light and really sweet. Makes me question how much of it's actually kombucha. Wow, okay, so this one is actually lower than I would expect. From the taste of it, it really tastes like really sweet. It could be just due to the extra ingredients that they add. There's a whole bunch of stuff. They've got like yumberry and star fruit and spirulina powder and spinach, like all kinds of different flavors in here that kind of make it taste sweeter. But the Brix reading here is actually right at, looks like 3.2. So if we do our math there, that's right around 15 grams, 16 grams of sugar. So that's accurate. So I don't know what's going on with GTs. Next up, Suja Strawberry Rhubarb. This one's coming in at 15 ounces with 14 grams of sugar on the label. Ooh, I think I swirled that a bit too much. Woo! This one tastes like a really, really pretty strong strawberry, like a strawberry ice cream or something like that. Very, very sweet. Brix is coming in at 3.9. 3.9. That's still just under 20 grams of sugar, like 18, 20 grams. So the bottle says 14, so that's coming in a little higher than what the bottle says. Next up is Health Aid Kombucha. This bottle is coming in at 16 ounces and says 14 grams of sugar. Interesting. It actually tastes pink. Like, I don't really know how to explain that, but the flavor is pink lady apple, and I can totally get why the flavor would be pink. I'm gonna say 4.4 Brix. So that's similar to around the range where GT's was, which is quite a lot higher than what the label says. Interesting about Health Aid, I think I've seen videos of their factories and kind of what they claim is actually brewing in small batches, which is like the same size batches that some people might brew at home in like a 2.5 gallon jar. And I think they just have tons of those jars, just brewing a bunch of kombucha. That must be like a nightmare to kind of go through and clean and like restart all of those batches. I know like a lot of other brewers will use like really large, like several 100-gallon like stainless steel tanks to do like large scale fermentations, and then like bright tanks for the carbonation, or even naturally carbonating in the bottles themselves. It's really interesting to see that Health Aid kind of took like the home kombucha and then like just scaled that up to like however many bottles they produce. Health Aid did recently actually have to settle a lawsuit about the claims of the alcohol content and the sugar content in their kombucha. I haven't read all the details on it, but the case didn't go to court, but they had like a $4 million settlement. And I think they've had to actually reformulate their recipe after that. So maybe, I don't know what's changed since, but they've probably had to reformulate to keep the alcohol levels down, and then maybe get the sugar content closer to what the label says. Next up, we've got Brew Doctor Kombucha. So a cool story about Brew Doctor, they're out of Portland, and they were actually started by a tea company. So it was Townshend's tea company, where they had several just kind of like tea shops around Portland, and they started to use their tea to make kombucha, and then their kombucha was awesome and scaled that up. And the brand of that is called Brew Doctor. I actually went to a couple of the tea shops when I was in Portland. Really cool vibe, really cool stuff that they're doing. I like Brew Doctor a lot. This bottle is coming in at 14 ounces, and the label says 15 grams of sugar. Okay, so this one's quite clear too. I mean, it's cloudy, but like the color is really light is what I meant to say. It's a pineapple, guava, passion fruit, green tea flavor. It definitely smells like guava. That's something that I'm not really used to like smelling in a kombucha. The taste is really nice though. Right under 4, so I'm gonna say 3.9. Like 18, 19. The bottle says 15, so kind of close. Next up, we've got another Portland brand, Hum. I don't know if you're supposed to say it for that long, but there's 2 M's, so Hum Kombucha it is. This one actually advertises that it has less sugar in it. And on the back label here it says, well, on the little tiny asterisk says, 31% less sugar than the leading kombucha brand. So I have to imagine that the leading kombucha brand is GT's, because it is. I think a few years ago they had like 90% of the market share. I know that's shared a lot more now. But this bottle is 14 ounces. That says there's 9 grams of sugar. The GT's is 16 ounces. That has 16 grams of sugar. So if you do the math on that, it's 31%, I guess. Somebody check me. But let's see how it tastes. Oh, I forgot to swirl it. You always want to swirl your kombucha. It depends on how natural and like how much of like the actual like live stuff is still in the bottle. Some of these kombucha brands will pasteurize or filter, remove out some of the particles. Some people like it clear. Some people say that it's better to have the kind of live particles inside. So it's just kind of up to your preferences. It really does have a strong taste of strawberry though. Not quite as strong as the Suja strawberry one, but it's still definitely there. Not really super sweet though. Whoa, I think this one's pretty low. Okay, so they might be onto something here. All right, this one looks like right around, I'm gonna say 2.6 Brix. So 2.6, 26 grams, divide that by 2, that's like 13. And what they put on the bottle here is 9. But so far, that's the lowest rating that I've gotten from any of these kombuchas. 2.6 Brix on this Hum strawberry lemonade, less sugar flavor. So it's definitely a good one to look out for. And tastes really nice. This is my first time trying it. I like it a lot. Next on the list is Rowdy Mermaid. This is a brand out of Boulder, Colorado. I actually haven't tried them yet. I've heard of them like on a podcast before, and I went to their website actually, and I really love the branding around it. And I love the name, Rowdy Mermaid, and they come in cans. So it's interesting. I've actually heard from some places that the BPA-free cans are actually more sustainable than bottles. I haven't kind of done the research myself. You should definitely try and check that out for yourself. I do like the bottles though, because sometimes I don't always finish like a whole bottle of kombucha. But then again, this can is only 12 ounces. So, maybe you would kind of drink the whole thing at once. But I like being able to kind of like be portable sometimes with my bottles. Whoa, this one is interesting. This is probably one of the first like really root type flavors. There's like turmeric, ginger, fennel, and fenugreek. Fenugreek? I don't even know if that's how you say it. I'm not really sure what that is. But it tastes great. It tastes like I'm drinking the earth in kombucha form. I really like it. Nice. Okay, so this one is looking just like the last one I measured, actually, probably right at 2.9 Brix. Next up, we've got Buchi. Buchi Kombucha. This is the Sovereign flavor. This is out of North Carolina. The bottle is interesting. It's really skinny and kind of tall. It almost feels like a bottle of olive oil. I like kind of the shape that you would get from that. This one is 12 ounces. And looks like the sugar content says 16 grams. So let's check that out. Okay, this has kind of got that dark, not really dark, but that kind of yellowish color that I would expect. This is kind of what my kombucha looks like when I brew it myself. Oh, I love this. So the bottle actually has instructions for how to make your own kombucha. That's great. Ooh, that's really nice. This one is really bubbly. It's got like those really nice fine like champagne type bubbles. That's nice. It has like almost like a floral kind of taste, even though it doesn't really say that it is. Maybe that's the ginger kind of coming through. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Peach, mango. Actually, I think it's the peach that I taste. Peach, mango, vanilla, molasses. Interesting. Yeah, this one is high. This is at like 5.1 Brix. So for the 12 ounce bottle to say that there's 16 grams of sugar, that's probably like the highest proportion of sugar of all the bottles that I've seen here. So it's labeled high and it actually tests high. So I've seen videos that apparently GT Dave, the founder of GT's Kombucha, actually tastes every single batch of the kombucha that they make, and that amounts to like him drinking like a gallon of kombucha a day. I kind of feel like that right now. Like I'm tasting like swigs of all these different kombuchas, so I'm like channeling some of my GT Dave. We've got a couple Florida bottles. This one is 221 BC, which is out of, I think it's St. Pete. No, this one's out of Sarasota, Florida. And this is a grapefruit bee pollen flavor, 16 ounces. Bottle says there is 16 grams of sugar in this. It's definitely got that like real distinct kombucha flavor. It reminds me of actually when you drink the original GTs, but it has kind of some of the extra flavor notes. But I really do like the taste like that real kombucha. Vinegary kind of strong taste, but I can definitely taste where the grapefruit in this bee pollen is coming through. I'm gonna say 4.4 on Brix. So that's gonna be like around 20-ish, 22 grams of sugar for like a 16-ounce bottle. The bottle says 16. So this is another 221 BC, but this one's a hard kombucha, coming in around 3.3% alcohol. They say this double fermentation. I'm not sure exactly what that process is. Maybe it's similar to kind of what the GTs does because the alcohol percentage is around the same. As you can see, I've already been sipping on this one to be able to record this video. This is a really bright red color. This has like the similar taste to the GT's hard kombucha, that kind of like musky Scotch type flavor. That must be some that must be something that comes through in like the extra fermentation process that they have to do for these. I'm going to do some research on that. It's really interesting. I don't really care for it so much. I'm going to go with 2.4. 2.4. That might be our lowest one so far. Interesting. So that's a lot lower Brix than what was showing for the regular 221 BC. I don't know if that's because some of the sugar actually tends to ferment out because it's being fermented longer. But the bottle here is showing 16 ounces and the label says 10 grams of sugar. So the 2.4 Brix actually gets pretty close to the 10 grams of sugar in this bottle. Last but not least, we have Mother Kombucha. This one is from St. Petersburg, Florida. And it's a 12-ounce bottle of a lavender mojito, which is really nice. I've had this one before. 12 ounces. The sugar content on the label is 6 grams. So that's the lowest sugar content I think that I've seen of any of these bottles. We'll see if it tests out. This one is a pretty light color. Really nice, kind of like lavendery smell. Definitely tastes like hints of mint. You can see that there's lavender, mint, and lime in this. Really nice, that kind of mojito flavor. I'm gonna say 2.2 on the Brix. And that last one is definitely the lowest measurement that we've gotten so far. So 2.2 translates to right around like 10-ish, 11 grams of sugar. The bottle here says 6, well that's actually 10 or 11 grams per half of a liter. This is a 12-ounce bottle, so if I do my math, that's gonna be, I'm not gonna be able to do my math. Cheers. So I created a spreadsheet with all the measurements that I took. I did some math on there and have kind of like analyzed and seen which of the different kombuchas are most accurate, which ones have the most sugar and which one have the least sugar. So one interesting thing to note is actually the largest discrepancies on basically like what the label said as far as how much sugar it had versus what I measured through the refractometer actually came from pretty much all of the GT's kombuchas and Health Aid. So you can look at the spreadsheet, I'll link it in the video here. But GT's, the original here, the gingerberry, both came out about 9 more grams of sugar than the bottles say. So they both say 12 grams of sugar. I measured around 21 grams of sugar. Health Aid was one of the other bigger ones. This particular flavor says there's 14 grams of sugar, and I measured around 20 grams of sugar in that bottle. The rest of them, there were definitely discrepancies in all of them. I mean, there's going to be discrepancies because I'm using this kind of equipment and it's not exactly, I'm not the lab that tested these. But the rest anywhere ranged from like 1 gram more to 4 grams more sugar than what's advertised on the label. So one where I actually measured less sugar than what was on the label was this Kavita Master Brew, the exotic green flavor. So the label here says 16 grams of sugar. I actually measured around 14 grams with my refractometer. If I were to actually like rank them based on the actual percentage of sugar in them, the one with the lowest amount of sugar is this Mother Kombucha lavender mojito. It is also the one that has the lowest number on the label. This 12-ounce bottle says there's 6 grams of sugar. I measured around 7.8 grams. So it's pretty close, and it's also the kind of lowest sugar content kind of on both measurements. So that's it. You can take a look at the data yourself. I would encourage you to get your own refractometer. You can test all kinds of things, juices, kombuchas, sodas, and let me know what you think. Thanks.